Namaste Shashibala ji.
Namaste.
Thank you very much for agreeing to take out your time for an interview with us.
It's a pleasure for me.
Because we have met before and then we wanted to know a lot more from you. One of the books that you wrote recently on Dr. Raghu Vira is at least getting famous in terms of introducing his life and works. And his dictionary also is being slowly utilized by other people. I also use his dictionary. So I would like to know, how was your experience collecting information about his life and any memorable anecdotes, etc. regarding this?
My father was such a great admirer of Dr. Raghu Vira that he used to say कि इस तरह का विद्वान न भूतो न भविष्यति. And he knew Dr. Raghu Vira so well and he could understand the spark in him, the knowledge, the dedication, the patriotism. This world is made for a scholar. And what is the meaning of a scholar? He gave me books by Dr. Raghu Vira, and most important book that he gave me was his Shraddhanjali Grantha. And in the Shraddhanjali Grantha, there were messages from all over the world, and what people wrote about him. This is how my father put a seed into my heart that I should work on the path of Dr. Raghu Vira. I had never studied Sanskrit. My father asked me to study Sanskrit when I came to college. I used to cry quietly, studying with my father. Okay, read this, because I was to be groomed, I was to be educated, I was to be trained to work on the path of Dr. Raghu Vira. So, I did my BA with English honors because it needs a good foundation in English also, then a number of foreign languages and this and that. Did my masters in Sanskrit, my MPhil, my PhD, everything. His birth centenary was about to happen, was about to come. Then Premchand ji, he came from Kanpur and he looks after a school which is built on the spot where Dr. Raghu Vira had met with a car accident. So, till now the school is there up to 12th standard. So, he was very angry with Dr. Lokesh Chandra and he said, आपने भी देश ने भी इतने महान व्यक्ति को भुला दिया, आपने भी भुला दिया, किसी ने एक जीवनी तक नहीं लिखी, अभी उनकी जन्म शताब्दी आ रही है, आपने एक जीवनी तक नहीं लिखी. So, he was quite angry. And by chance I was there. Dr. Lokesh Chandra looked at me, Shashi, करोगे? जी करूँगी. But I cannot explain how challenging was this job, because it was April and in December we had to launch we have to complete the biography of Dr. Raghu Vira. Okay, he started giving me information. One after the other, the cupboards were being opened and files after files about his work, full of dust, because some were not open for over, because after his death nobody opened them. When I started writing the preface to it, I just was reminded of a shloka by Kalidasa, Ko surya prabhava vanshak ko chalpa vishayamati titirshu dustarad mohat udupenasmi sagaram. I am such a small person and I am trying to reach such a great personality. How will it happen? But it happened. Every day Dr. Lokesh Chandra used to give me one after the other and he used to talk about it. I used to write whatever he was talking to me, because I could understand, because I was very close to the family and I think I am the only person who remained for so long so close. I was there doing my MPhil, my PhD, I worked assisted my father for his PhD, and it was a long time. And at that time Mataji was also alive, Dr. Raghu Vira's wife, she was also alive. I worked with Dr. Lokesh Chandra's sisters also, I worked with his wife also, and so on. Writing his biography was it made me so emotional. And for example, I am just writing on the paper with a pen, and a drop of tear, when it fell on the paper, then I could realize, oh, I am crying. So that was the situation. That is emotional part of my experience. Every day I used to write, then that writing on paper, and then I used to by fax, I used to send it to my father. My father had hired a typist, he used to type, and every day my father used to send the typed version to me again. And Dr. Lokesh Chandra's younger sister Sushma ji was there at that time, and she used to read the proofs. Then second proof was read by me, then the third proof by Dr. Lokesh Chandra, and then the final proof was sent to the publisher, and there was somebody sitting with the publisher also. So this is how we worked as a team to finish this task in a few minutes. That was so difficult. And at the end of the preface, I have written all the names, okay, he did this, she did this, but I am not thanking anybody, because everybody did his own duty. It was their dharma, so it is not me who can thank them. So it was a, and after writing, yes, of course, it was written basically for the school, that the children should know where are they studying, what is the what is behind the name and all this. So we went for the launch. We installed a statue of Dr. Raghu Vira there in the school, so that the children know, so that they can be trained, they can be inspired to know the personality. So this is how it happened, and there was no money. So me and my father and Dr. Lokesh Chandra, we just collected some money and printed 500 books, and we just gave away as gift. Not a single copy was sold. Oh. Nobody was there. Then this publisher Prabhat Prakashan, Prabhat ji talked to me, Shashibala ji, you have done this. I said okay. So it started moving. So now people know about him.
No, it is actually a very important task that you accomplished. Whatever be the inspiration for that, because there is no one place where we could get good information on this topic.
Oh yes.
So thank you so much for that. Now I would like to move on to another topic of your research fields, which is Sanskrit in the maritime route. You have written about some of the inscriptions that are found in Southeast Asia. So could you let us know a little bit about this influence of India in these places that we generally don't get to know from history books?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have this information in our books at any level of our education system. The whole history, the glorious period of Indian history of 2000 years is just brought into the two lines that Ashoka sent mission, and he sent Sanghmitra and Mahendra, and after that what happened? 2000 years of such a huge empire of India. So it was not colonization, it was not meant for influencing anybody, it was just to give something. As you know that Sanskrit is such a rich language, and it has contributed substantially to the European languages, to the Southeast Asian languages. From 50 to 70% of words in Southeast Asian languages are Sanskrit, because of being such a rich language and free to give to whomsoever needs it. So enrichment of the Southeast Asian languages happened with Sanskrit. Then because of Sanskrit, the scripts were also developed there. So if we do some comparative study, or you try to learn any of the Southeast Asian scripts, it is so easy for an Indian to learn that, because it is based on the Indian scripts. Inscriptions are the earliest records of our linkages. Actually, the links started with the traders. Indians were great traders. Wherever anybody goes, naturally he takes his own culture with him, the way of living, the way of thinking, then the text, so many things they traveled. So first documents are from Southeast Asia. They begin from the 2nd century AD. And wherever you go in any of the Southeast Asian countries, the earliest records, written records, are in Sanskrit. And they are written, such beautiful Sanskrit is written by the people, by the local people. It was not that the Sanskrit Pandits, they went, no, because I am saying this with so much of confidence, because Dr. Raghu Vira had invited scholars from Cambodia to know, to understand, is it they who wrote or is it the Indians who went there. One thing is inscriptions, then second thing is large number of manuscripts. See, such beautiful manuscripts are written there, and again they are their compositions. For example, there is one text, Bhavan Kosha, that is the largest Shaiva text with description in old Javanese language. 525 shlokas with commentary in Kavi, that is old Javanese. They wrote in their own script, that is called Kavi, or the old Javanese you can call it. Bali also used the same. Even today, there is a huge number of manuscripts in different collections, in private collections, in government collections. I just give you one example of Kirtiya Gadung. Recently I visited it last April, because I had already used manuscripts from Kirtiya Gadung, so I knew I was okay, I have to go there. All the manuscripts are written on palm leaf. And the Dutch people, yes, of course they came as colonizers. In India also Britishers came as colonizers, but they did some good works also. Those who loved, who liked, who were impressed by the knowledge. So the Dutch people, they transcribed what I have the feeling, looking at the transcriptions piled up there. This is my feeling, I have to check, that all the manuscripts are transcribed into Roman. Who will do that now? And all the paper, you can understand, is so fragile now because being old. And I doubt termite also, because when I reached Kirtiya Gadung, because there were some Indonesian scholars with me, so I could see the Shraddhanjali of Dr. Raghu Vira, and I took it out and I opened it and there was termite, because there were Shraddhanjalis sent by his Indonesian Shishyas also. There were two first students who were invited by Dr. Raghu Vira from Indonesia, Punyatmaj Oka and Siddharth. These were the two. So I knew them, I had already met them, and I knew how much Dr. Raghu Vira loved them and how he was teaching them like his own children and this. So, what I doubt now, that because the atmosphere is hot and moist, it's easy to catch once there is termites. So, the preservation, the level of preservation is not that of that level that it should be. And what I feel is that they should immediately be scanned at least, and all the transcriptions also should be scanned. And there are many other fascinating facts about Indonesian texts. For example, for my MPhil degree, I worked on the Sanskrit grammatical texts from Indonesia. They are all fragmented. Vyakaran. The point to understand is why there are small Vyakarana Granthas, because all the Kavis, all the poets, all the authors, whatever they wanted to write, they used to prepare like their own notebooks. So sometimes these are not complete Vyakaranas, but they are the notes on the basis of those Vyakaranas.
Prayogikam, whatever they were using every day.
It was for their use. And another thing, just last visit I came to know is that Dashanama. Dashanama is like Amar Kosha. So you give synonyms. But only during my last visit, I met some scholars and they told me, Shashibala ji, there are more than one Dashanamas, because the poets used to prepare their own Dashanamas. So Dashanama is not just one text like Amar Kosha. Then some texts are lost in India. For example, Amar Mala. Amar Kosha we know, but we do not know about Amar Mala. So Amar Mala was in India, but we have it doesn't remain now. We have lost it forever. And when I was working for the Sanskrit grammatical text from Indonesia, then I checked the catalogue of the Tibetan texts translated into Sanskrit. I could prepare a list of 49 Sanskrit grammatical texts translated into Tibetan. At that time, Pandit Yudhishthir Mimamsak ji was alive, and I went to see him near Sonipat in Bahalgarh. And he said that many of the texts are not even known by name to us.
Oh.
We can retrieve them, because retranslating from Chinese is very difficult, but from Tibetan and Mongol is easy, because Tibetans had translated the whole of Amarkosha and they had created parallel terms, and Dr. Raghu Vira and Lokesh Chandra ji, they have made dictionaries also. So now it's easy for us, we can do it. So when you go to Bali or you just see any of the collections in Southeast Asian countries, really one becomes so, at least I am so moved. I can't sleep for a few days after returning from there, because so much work is to be done, and India, we are ignorant about it. We do not know what to do.
We are actually ignorant about what is there here itself, right?
Here itself, yes.
So in fact, our prayasa from the Samsthanam and everywhere is to do that, and simultaneously this kind of work to sensitize people about the existence of this.
Yes.
So that is why I find that the information that you are giving is very crucial. We would like to explore more.
So this is just a part about Sanskrit, but otherwise also you look at the temples, because what was there in all the Southeast Asian countries, what we find in the archaeological discoveries, it's all tomb culture.
Tomb culture.
Tomb culture. But when Indians reached there, there was a complete shift from tomb to temple culture. When there is a temple, then there is glory, there is transcendence. You look at the shikharas, it's not just made beautifully, but you know the philosophy behind it. There are beautiful sculptures, I shouldn't say beautiful, but the sacred. We shouldn't say it art, they are sacred. They are sacred. You look at the paintings, you look at the sculptures, you look at the panels, you go to Cambodia. How fascinating it is. That I did one research paper that the philosophical foundation of Angkor Wat, the largest Vishnu temple of the world, is Manusmriti.
Oh, is it? Oh.
So fascinating how people were traveling, how people were going from India, how the kings, Kamboja kings, they used to invite Indian pundits, and how they got Ramayana, Mahabharata, Puranas, Manusmriti, how there were Gurukulas, how there were ashramas, how they used to chant every day, how it was a part of the imperial culture. There are many reasons behind it, why it became such an important part of the imperial culture. Not only chanting, but so many things they did. They sponsored so much. Like if you talk about Thailand, every king of Thailand even today takes the title of Rama. Now this is Lord Rama the 10th. Early, what happened actually, we should just check it, who was the first Rama and why. The Thai people, they established a dynasty, its name is Chakri dynasty, because Chakri means Vishnu, Chakradhari. So Vishnu is the sustainer of the world, Brahma is the creator of the world. So they worship Brahma so much you have never seen, you will ever seen in anywhere in the world.
In
the way
Bharatam too, we don't have much.
And why do they do that? Because they say Brahma is the creator, he can give you anything that you need. Once I was I went for a conference, and I knew that the hotel in which we are going to stay, they have a beautiful statue of Brahma. So naturally it was my first thing that I wanted to see. I asked many people in the hotel, oh, where is the Brahma statue? Where is the Brahma statue? Nobody could understand what I am saying. Then one man said, oh, you mean four-faced Buddha. So in India, we talk about Buddhists, Hindus. There is in China or sorry, in Thailand, there is no such division. The Thai king is Buddhist, but all the Rajyabhishek ceremonies are Vedic. Vedic. This is the fourth, I think, the fourth generation Brahmana from, he's a Tamil Brahmana who is doing all these royal ceremonies. So, like this you can go on and on, because you see a king, he wanted to rule the kingdom like Vishnu, and Rama is the ideal ruler. So, they took this title, they established this dynasty, and all the Rama kings, they did a lot of work for Ramayana, lot of work, because it is Adarsha. We talk about Maryada Purushottama, but they have Ayodhya, they have Ram Rajya, their king is Raja Rama. So, this, like this, so much of information is scattered, not only in Southeast Asia, but it's just coming to my mind when I'm talking about administration, that the first constitution of Japan made by Prince Shotoku Taishi, it is called 17 article constitution. It is based on the Buddhist principles of Panchashila and Bahujana Hitaya, Bahujana Sukhaya. That is one part. But I have never seen any other constitution that is sanctified, prana pratishtha, by a Sanskrit mantra. Only one I could find in the history so far. Maybe there were more, I don't know. I have a copy of that Sanskrit mantra also. Ushnisha Vijaya Dharani mantra. Ushnisha Vijaya means the supreme victory. Ushnisha means supreme. Pagadi we call it, but because it is on the top, so it is the top victory. Ushnisha Vijaya Dharani mantra is the only mantra that is still written on the Great Wall of China. Dr. Raghu Vira brought an estampage and I have a copy. Anytime you can show it.
I definitely would like to see.
So, like this you can go on and on and on, talking about the temples, the architecture, the Shastri Adhar of the temples. It is not building a beautiful building. It is not a construction, beautiful construction, but it is all based on Shastras. So many temples are built on the basis, on the copying the South Indian temples and whatever. There is a lot to be studied. How even now in India we have Bali Yatra.
It happens in Odisha area, right?
Yeah, because people used to travel from there. No, they still and on in Indonesia, on the walls of Borobudur, there are, you can see boats, people traveling. So it's a celebration of our linkages.
In fact, I heard someone is trying to kind of make a boat and travel that route. Someone is trying to do something like that now. It's interesting because it's all over the place. For example, I Ching writes about his travels there.
Of course.
And then even in something like Kathasarit Sagara that I was studying,
yes,
the Kataha Dvipa and other
Kataha
such
Dvipa. You see, people even are not told about what is the meaning of Kataha Dvipa, because it is the shape of that is like Kadhai in Hindi, we call Kataha. Java Dvipa is Yava Dvipa, Amra Dvipa. So there is so much. Suvarna Dvipa is because our traders used to go to get gold from there, and that is why we have on the coastal areas the temples were so rich with gold, because people starting their travel used to offer prayers, please, if I come successfully. So suppose he brings 50 kg of gold, he will at least donate 1 kg. So they used to donate to the temples, and before going they used to put off their garlands and all on the hang on the walls, on the railings of the temples. And this is my feeling, again I haven't done any research on it, that this is maybe this is the reason why we have pearl strings on the railings of the temples, maybe. Otherwise I couldn't find, it is just my assumption. So you can go on. You see, I was talking to the great our dancer Padma Subramanian ji, and she was given one project to work on Brahmanan temple, and the Karanas that she made a list and she made a sequence for some temple in Maharashtra. The same Karanas she was so fascinated that she found in Prambanan temple in the Shiva temple.
Very, very, very fascinating. Very fascinating.
So, you just go and see, but we need eyes to see. As
No,
Bhagwan
first,
Krishna
I think we
says,
need exposure to
Yes.
know such things even exist, which
Yes.
is not, which is completely missing. I think this is a topic for multiple seminars actually.
yes.
So now I would like to just to change gear a little bit. The expansion towards southeast, you described many fascinating things. Similarly, you have also worked on the Silk Route a little bit.
Yes.
Sanskrit in the Silk Route.
Yes.
So in your article in that book, for example, you mention about various places, Khotan, Khadzila caves,
Kucha,
Kucha,
Kizil,
so
yeah.
many. So how does it change our perception of what India was, or how the prabhava of India was in these areas? Because now the area is almost totally lost from our culture. It has been detached. So can you enlighten us a little bit on?
Getting detached is a very small, I think, word for it. It's
Correct.
all destroyed
It's destroyed is what I
It's
should
destroyed there. When culture flourished in these small kingdoms, then business, everything flourished. People were more rich, but once they were destroyed, it became a no man's land. So China didn't know when these all archaeologists, explorers, they were going and digging and bringing huge amount of artifacts and paintings and manuscripts and statues, what not. They even scrapped the whole of the walls and took them. So in Germany, in France, in British India, we have some collection, because at that time India was not independent. So half of the collection of Stein was in our is still in our National Museum. Half went to England. Japanese, Russians, China didn't know about it. That means it was a no man's land. It just happens by chance, because somebody had murdered a British official and they were searching that person, the murderer, and suddenly they the official who was chasing him, he saw some door that was closed. He just opened it, and inside there was a cow. And as soon as he opened, so because of the pressure of air or whatever, it fell down. And from inside the belly, there were manuscripts. So like Vaitarani, Sanskrit, because people, because we have the concept of that cow is Vaitarani. So maybe it was put into, because whatever for whomsoever that was done, maybe, and those manuscripts are very important for us to understand that. So it was a sudden discovery, and after that he wrote some article. That article was published in some research journals, and on the news spread in many countries, and immediately people started traveling to that, and wherever they dug, there were Sanskrit manuscripts. Because of sand, that is desert. So in desert, it could be preserved. There was no water. So and after that, many people, when they came to know that they are so important, so people who had stolen them, they tore page by page and sold them. And people who are working, the great scholars, I have seen the work, Karashima, Professor Karashima in Japan. If you just, for example, you see his work, one part, just think about one leaf, paper. One part was discovered from St. Petersburg, other part was discovered from the Japanese collection, some part was in British Library.
This is the ultimate jigsaw puzzle, so difficult.
Jigsaw puzzle, they
Extremely
joined them, and he was so sad. Now unfortunately we lost him, he passed away. He tried so hard to get permission to scan and preserve, because by time they are fading. So in our museum, things have faded, a lot of fading has happened, and in all these small kingdoms along the Silk Route, northern and southern. Khotan is on the southern route. I have travelled all this area, and Kucha, Kizil, etc. are on the northern side. when we go from here at Kashgar, which is even now called Kashi in modern Chinese maps. I have a map. Kashi. And because Kashgar was a center of Vedic learning, and there is only one proof about it, and that is the biography of Kumarajiva, that Kumarajiva had travelled with his mother to Kashgar to study Vedas. He came up to Kashmir, but he stopped there. That is only one reason. And Kucha you asked me about. Dr. Raghu Vira has identified that the one Rig Veda Sangita, it's from Kucha. It is his identification that the Shweta Dvipiya, because the people of that area were called Shweta, because they were so fair, so it is called Shweta Dvipiya.
So, according to Dr. Raghu Vira, the Suktam itself is from that place.
I don't know about the Suktam, but there is one Dharani that is written in Turkish, and he translated it into Sanskrit, and he showed the Sanskrit and Turkish both, and they are so similar. Not only translation, but both Sanskrit and Turkish, because Turks were all Buddhist up till Babarnama. Before Babarnama, you can say, all the Turkish manuscripts, wherever they are discovered, they are Buddhist. They were not Muslims. So, these kingdoms were fledged. Khotan was a great center of Sanskrit learning. People used to come from China to study there. People from India used to go, stay in the monasteries, and they used to translate, they used to copy. So, first translation and copying of Sanskrit texts was done in Khotan. For China, Khotan was a source of getting these texts.
In fact, I remember Faxian, Xuanzang, those before them, when the translation started, this is the source of the place where they used to have cultural exchanges.
I would correct a little bit here, that the translation started in the 1st century. Dr. Raghu Vira brought an inscription of 67 AD from the White Horse Monastery from China. It was the then capital of China. These two Sanskrit scholars, Kashyap Matang and Dharmaraksha, had carried the Sanskrit texts on white horses. That is why that monastery, built specially for them, is called White Horse Monastery. So, translation according to the written records, according to the Chinese records, is 67 AD. I had worked on that without even knowing much Chinese, but Dr. Lokesh Chandra had trained me to read the Chinese letters with the help of a dictionary, and I worked on that inscription. It was a huge inscription. It still exists there, and the two horses still exist there, and the statues of Kashyap Matang and Dharmaraksha also are there. So, that is the beginning, and after that they are lost now. The texts whatever they translated were lost, but the first texts that are preserved in translation are by Anshikau, and Anshikau was a Persian prince. In Persia, Sanskrit was so popular. As if, we are not talking about Iran and Aryanam and all these things, but that gives us a proof that how passionate were the royal families, that Anshikau, a prince, came to China to translate, and it continued for more than 1000 years. And it was like a meritorious deed to sponsor these projects, and how they contributed to the development, civilizational development, cultural development, politically also. These Buddhism, these Sanskrit texts, they helped China a lot. For example, suppose one text is to be translated, 3000 to 4000 monks used to sit together, because finding parallel terms in China was not easy. They created new terms. So, it contributed to the linguistic development of China. When any of the texts were translated, finally the emperor, sometimes they have written forewords to it, and final decision was taken by a group, huge group. okay, this is the final translation. Then all the monks who had come from far off monasteries, that time China was divided into two, northern and southern, but they united. It worked as a core. The Sanskrit text worked as a core to unite different parts of China. They used to copy, write by hand. There was no technology at that time of printing. So, printing technology came later. They learned from India for this wood block printing started. So, printing industry started. Then you need, when you are making thousands of copies, then naturally you need paper. So, paper industry developed. People say that India did not have paper. I have proof for it, that paper was in India. There are many kinds of paper. We have to learn about it. There is paper made by plant product, then silk, then cotton, then rice. There are so many types of papers. So, who made which paper first? But we had proof for it, that it's not only bhurjapatra or palm leaf that we were writing, but we were using paper also. I wrote a small article about it, anytime I can share with you. So, this is how we contributed to it. And you talked about Faxian. Faxian has written in his travelogue that beyond the Great Wall of China, there was nothing Chinese. It was all Indian, and Chinese used to call their country as heavenly kingdom, and this side the western paradise. Number 2, Khotan. This area was called Sir India. What is the meaning of Sir India? What is the etymology? It is a, I think, Greek or Latin word sir, I think Greek. Sir means silk. So, Khotan, Sir India means the India of silk. Even today, when if you go there, you will find huge number of mulberry trees there. It was a center of silk production. It was not China who was producing silk first. The date of the silk produced by China, before that, 1000 years before that, we have found proof in Harappa that we used to produce silk. It was not because of just a few words, Jinan sugar and all these things, we are thinking about it. Then sugar technology. So, it all went through Silk Route. Silk Route, all the kingdoms are flourishing by in all respects. You study them from all perspectives, they were flourishing. But destruction of monasteries, destruction of knowledge, destruction of everything there. So, what is there now? It became a no man's land. And now when we go, we are not allowed to click a single photo. And that was a time when archaeologists were going, digging and taking away huge amount. That it means China didn't know about that.
Yeah, many of these areas have been consumed by terrorism and so on, extremely.
Yes, when dharma is there, then many things go in the right direction.
You talked about the Silk Route, and also nothing beyond the Great Wall of China was Chinese that way, and also the name Turk came in. So, in that context, I am reminded of your contribution towards the Mongolian Tanjur, and you have also been in fact awarded the highest civilian award from this country.
Yes.
So, that is something, in fact, most people here don't even know that something happens in Mongolia, that is the state we are in. So, I'm really curious about what this project was, how did you get into it, and what all happened later from that.
I knew about Mongolia since 1967 when my father went there, and after returning he told so many mesmerizing stories about the devotion to dharma in Mongolia. Then last time when I went to Mongolia, all the monasteries in Mongolia were destroyed, but now gradually they are rebuilding it. So, during my last visit, I asked our ambassador in Mongolia that how many, because I was very sad to see that the monasteries are there, but not the sacred texts. There are actually more than 5,000 Sanskrit texts that are translated into Mongol language. They are divided into two compendia. One is Kanjur and the other is Tanjur. Kanjur consists of 108 volumes and Tanjur consists of 225 volumes. So, when in Tibetan or Mongol monasteries, you will see that there are always sacred texts. So, sacred text does not mean that they are meant for devotion only. They are on all the subjects, whatever they took from here, including Vyakarana. And all the different fields like metallurgy, like kavya, so many things. So, when I was there, I was sad to see that the monasteries are rebuilt, but they do not have their texts. They should be there. So, I discussed with our ambassador. He said, yes, it would be very good if something can be donated to Mongolia. And in our academy, Dr. Lokesh Chandra had already published 108 volumes of Kanjur, Mongol Kanjur. The original manuscripts are, the length is more than 3 feet, height maybe around 10 inch or something, and breadth maybe 1 foot or maybe 11 inches, something like this. So, long time ago, because at that time also I used to work with him when these were being printed, because that was a different technology. Sheets, metallic sheets used to come, and I used to rub the idhar udhar, whatever the dots were there which are not required, and all these things. Dr. Lokesh Chandra used to train me, okay, do this, do this, do this. So, that time I did not know in 75, but when I came there, but the whole process took a number of years. The publication was not so easy. Even UNESCO had refused that no, it cannot be done, because the xylographs, means wood block prints of 108 volumes like this, and 300 years old paper. You can imagine the color of ink is vermilion. The paper became yellowish with time and ink faded. So, contrast was so little that printing was very difficult, but Dr. Lokesh Chandra took it as a challenge and he published it at that time. And now, when I came from there and we made a project, and somehow it got approved by the government of India to donate 70 copies to the Mongol monasteries. You can imagine 108 volumes. Now, they are printed in A3 size, thick like this. So, it was it cost the cost of the whole project around more than 2 crore rupees. So, it took around 2 years to do it, and finally, it could reach the monasteries, and the people of Mongolia were so happy with that. Number 2, the Tanjur. The catalogue of Tanjur was made by a Mongol scholar, Professor Rinchin, with the help of Dr. Raghu Vira. During his life, he could print only 4 of the parts of he could print 3 out of 4 parts of the Tanjur catalogue. The 4th part was lying, manuscript was lying with Dr. Lokesh Chandra, and he gave me that manuscript, and I reprinted the whole of this, the 3 earlier parts and the 4th that was not done. So, that was such a big activity for them, such a big contribution for them to work on Kanjur and Tanjur both. They were grateful, and I could feel that during my next visit to Mongolia, that I was standing in a monastery, Ganden monastery, and people could see my this brooch of the polar star, because it is the Mongolian highest state civilian award is called Polar Star. They could see and they could identify. And ma'am, can I have a photo with you? Ma'am, can I touch you? Ma'am, can I hug you? So, for more than an hour, I was just standing and happily posing with them to have my photographs. I went to a shop. These are some small things, but they are very fascinating. I wanted to buy some silk from there. I went to a shop. He saw my polar star. He said, ma'am, I want to give you discount. I said, please no, I don't need discount. He said, no, I have to give you a polar star winner. So this is how people know. And finally, I think I am so grateful to the President of Mongolia, to the ambassador, the then ambassador Garnbold, who took all this proposal to his to his president. And he used to speak such a beautiful Hindi, and yeah, he had lived in India. He had studied Sanskrit, Hindi, and all. He loved India. There are many ambassadors actually who love India, who pray, who respect India so much, but unfortunately we do not know about them.
And yeah, if we don't know about it, we can't even reciprocate well.
Yeah, we don't know
what to do.
What to do. We do not know the these feelings, the emotions, the respect that they are. All these things help. If you sit with any of the foreign ambassadors or state guests or anybody, when you talk about their culture, naturally you became good friends. So it's not just diplomacy, because our culture did not go to these countries under any diplomatic relations. It was a flow.
Organically.
स्वतः था ये. So we did not wanted to get anything. It was just to give something, whatever we had, whatever munis, the acharyas, the gurus, what they did. They gave away everything without any copyright, without any patent, without any getting any money from them. They were just to preach the knowledge. And this has happened. And even now, if you go to, can you believe that people know Panini, so much about Panini in Mongolia? Panini is the best grammarian, yes, we agree, but we do not know that Panini was studied, is still studied, and it has helped a number of languages and number of scholars from Mongolia to Cambodia, Indonesia. Panini is described in the Cambodian inscriptions. We do not know the stories of Raja Bhoj. Arajibuji, they call it Arajibuji. There are so many things. Gisan Khan, they call Krishna is called Gisan Khan.
Oh.
Khan is a title. It's a royal title, but later on it is misused, wrongly used. That is a different story. So I am always grateful.
Oh, this is
because I don't think I deserve it, but they thought I deserved it.
No, if no one has done this work, that's something so remarkable that you have contributed. That at least that much should be highlighted everywhere. First,
it's challenging actually to get these things done. Yeah. Even once the fund is allocated, but still it's not so easy.
So in the Silk Route we have gone to Mongolia, from there a little bit of visit to Japan.
Yes.
Okay, because you have a book on iconography of Hindu deities in Japan.
Yes.
See, when we think of Japan, it's usually Zen or Shinto, some of these things come to mind. But Hindu devatas usually get less concentration there. So can you tell us a little bit on what this is?
Yes, actually this is a topic of my PhD thesis.
Oh.
12 Hindu deities worshipped in a group in Japan in hundreds of monasteries. And the sect that worships them is called Shingon. Shingon means Mantrayana. You must have heard about Vajrayana, Hinayana, Mahayana, Theravada, etc. This is one that is called Mantrayana, because it is based on the mantras, Sanskrit mantras. Buddhism reached official date is given 552. After that, the Prince Shotoku-Taishi, he did a lot of work, built a number of monasteries, this and that. Buddhism was established. But there was a shift in early 9th century, when one of their acharyas, Acharya Kobodaishi, he went to China to study Buddhism, and when he returned, he brought a number of Sanskrit mantras with him and also mandalas. When there is a mandala, then there are hundreds of deities sitting in there, in a mandala. So in one of the mandalas, Mahakaruna Garbha Mandala, all these Vedic deities are there. Indra, Agni, Yam, Varun, Niriti, Vayu, Brahma, Prithvi, Surya, Chandra, etc. Kubera. And one thing we must know is that before Buddhism officially was introduced into Japan, before that they had a group of 7 deities that is called Shichifukujin in Japan, and its meaning is 7 lucky gods. They used to worship 7 lucky gods, and there are 3 Hindu deities there: Saraswati, Mahakala and Kubera. They were there before also. How popular is Saraswati till today? There is a lot to know about the Saraswati temple, the manifestations of Saraswati. Saraswati is not just the goddess of learning, but she is worshipped for many other reasons. Even Sarasvati, because of Sarasvati, they have taken Saraswati even as a goddess of kitchen, Rasoi, Rasavati. So, there are many manifestations, many narratives about Saraswati. Lakshmi also, Kichijutin. Kichijutin, Lakshmi, goddess Lakshmi, when you look at any of the manifestations of Kichijutin, Lakshmi, goddess Lakshmi, you will not be able to identify this is Lakshmi, because in India we have goddess Lakshmi with gold coins being showered, but it was taken into the Buddhist fold, so she holds a Chintamani jewel, wish granting jewel, Lakshmi who can give you anything that you need, Chintamani jewel. During the 8th century, they used to celebrate one festival, Kichijogekka. Kichijogekka means worshipping Saraswati and Lakshmi together, because to run life, to run a state, you need 3 things. One is intellectual power, that is Saraswati, financial power, goddess Lakshmi, but you need administrative and military power also, and that is Durga. So, 3 deities are worshipped. So, there also they do that. Ganapati, Ganesha, so many forms of Ganapati are found there, and some of them I could not find in India. And there is one form which I found in Indonesia, I could never find in India, that is Ganesha sitting on a seat of skulls, wearing all the ornaments of skulls. Can you believe that? So, again there is a whole story about it, we cannot cover here, but there are such fascinating things. Ganesha was worshipped in Mongolia. Ganesha is worshipped, still worshipped in Tibet, in Thailand, wherever you go, Ganesha is there. So, Hindu deities are there, and even Havana, we talk about Homa. In Japanese monasteries, even in last April I could see still the number of monasteries they perform Homa. Of course, the system is different, the way of thinking about home is different, but they do it, priests do it very formally. Everything they formalize so much, like tea ceremony. Everything is over formalized, you can say. Tea ceremony, what is tea ceremony? Actually, the Vaidyas, they used to go, they used to boil herbs. In India, we call it kadha. They used to take herbs and boil and give it to people. So, later on it developed as a tea. There is so much to talk about Ayurveda in all these countries. Ayurveda went from India to all the directions, but the way they developed is different. Base is there, number of texts still are there in Chinese, in Tibetan, in Mongol. They had Arya-Vaidyasalas also in Southeast Asia. Yoga was there. There are Siddhas. We talk about 84 Siddhas. You can see statues of Siddhas in Thailand, put in the gardens even today, in modern gardens. So, Hindu deities are there and still worshipped, that is very important. Still worshipped. And the number of manifestations, for example, of Indra, we have descriptions in our texts, but we do not have those forms. They are there, they are developed by them. Of Agni, for example, we do not have those kinds of manifestations of Agni in any form, like in painting or sculpture, but they have it. So there is one Devata that emerges from our Homa, Achala Vidya Raja. So we call it a Agni Deva like thing, emerges from Agni. Number of things are there.
Is it possible to infer that some of those might have existed in India, but now it is lost, or it is entirely their development?
Actually, the forms are given by them. Because we were worshipping during the Vedic times, we were not making statues or paintings.
Right.
Because our level of consciousness was so high at that time that we used to worship in Nishkala form. It was not a Sakala form, it came later on.
Okay. One last question I have. We have discussed this influence across, say, East, Southeast Asia, all these places. Now, there is a certain group of people, I would say, who at least emphasize look east when we are looking west. Looking west is a norm that we know, nothing else. But we also would like to establish this cultural relation, again rejuvenate these things. And I also hear from some other scholars that almost nothing is being done towards this. Since you have worked in this area, it will be a very valuable input for people who are at least interested in this area and want to do something. What can be done, what should be done according to you?
Yeah, how our minds are colonized, we know. So this is not to be described.
Correct.
But how to decolonize the mind? One has to understand the beauty, the depth, the height of our knowledge, of our culture, and most important is our contribution to all these countries in civilizational and cultural development. And another aspect would be how there was peace, harmony. When we have peace and harmony, only then you can think of sustainable development. Otherwise, you do something, you are caught into some activity, terrorism, war. When there is war, the lives are shattered. How Indian culture contributed to save the lives of the people, and how we can face the challenges that is faced by the world today, how we can help them through our culture, by applying our culture, by following our culture. Culture is not just a fixed, does not have a fixed definition. It's a very wide, it means a very wide meaning of that. Definition is so wide that you cannot define it. So, when we say culture, it does not mean what we wear and how we live and what we eat. When we talk of India, then intellectual culture, ethical culture, aesthetical culture, medical culture, there are so many various areas that we have to talk about. So, all these areas should be worked on and more should be preached. You see, I look at it like a pyramid. On the top are a few scholars who give vision, who do research, and they write books, and then it goes down, people read, then it comes down slowly, and then social media, school education, college education, we have some PhD students on them. Lot of German scholars have worked on India, and just 2 years ago there was the first Indian student who went to one of the German scholars as she is her guide now. She used to ask me, Shashibala, why there is nobody from India to work on these areas? It's India should work on it. Indians do not know, I am sorry. The beauty, the elegance, the depth of knowledge. When there is a temple, there is everything glorious. There is splendor, there is beauty, there is peace. When we enter a temple, we do not do anything wrong. We think, oh, it's a sacred area. So, building temples were so important and they contributed hugely, immensely to these countries. So, we have to work and tell people and bring it down to the lowermost level, so that every child knows, oh, this is my India, this is me, this is my forefathers, this is the work that is done by my forefathers. He will be a proud Indian. I wrote about because I was involved in the new education policy also. So, I wrote many times that yes, through the new education policy, yes, of course, we are working for a good character, a good educational foundation, everything to have good jobs, but we should work on that Indians are proud Indians also. We should add this element, only then the mind will be decolonized. Unless we have to write books, otherwise all the books written by Western authors. So far we have the whole of the world is using dictionary by Monier Williams, English, Sanskrit, Sanskrit, English. This is the first time that we could bring out English, Sanskrit dictionary. Now we are planned to work the other way, Sanskrit, English. So now hopefully we will start in I think 2-3 months to work on the next dictionary, because it is the, I think, fundamental work that should be done.
Is it the opposite of the 9-volume dictionary?
Yeah, it not only the opposite, it will be opposite also, but many things will be added.
Oh.
Not maybe to Monier Williams, maybe we can add 60,000 or 50,000 more words. We are just thinking about it, the way we can feel, because it is an outdated dictionary and many of the manuscripts were not published at that time. After that, so much is already published, and Deccan College Pune, they have the dictionary on which they are working is based on 1700 texts, up around 1700.
But they were unable to proceed beyond, I mean, it's very slow, right?
It has to be slow because such a huge project. But they will also collaborate with us, so that the work that has already been done, it is not to be done again. So, we collaborate with them and we do something together also. So, they will also contribute. So, because it is useless to do something again that the scholars have already done. This is what, so the plan is already there, and soon we will get some, hopefully get some starting, to start something we get some funds, hopefully yes, and slowly we go ahead, and maybe it will take 5-7 years, I do not know, it all depends on.
Okay. Jnanam paramam balam, that is what it is. Yes. Finally. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Shashibala.
much. My pleasure. Great pleasure. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.